across the province. People listening can hear. And this was a really good session this morning, so thank you for coming and thank you.
Thank you. All right, you can hear me? Yes? Okay. So as they were saying, I am from CREA. So we've been yesterday doing some sessions in Regina. So when we made the announcement just prior to, it was just before Christmas actually, we were doing this huge change in the application. And the reason why they were doing it was because there's a lot that we wanted to offer with this application, with WEBForms. And the time frame was shorter to actually have a product that was already in the industry that has been around for quite a few years. And it was easier and in a way much more economical to actually have something that's already established. So that's why that big change is coming upon you. Unfortunately, well, or fortunately, Saskatchewan is the first one to be transitioned over. So you are, I know some of you going through some of the pain points, but at the same time, you're also going to have a much longer time to get used to it. So the current WEBForms, which we call legacy, will be terminated at the end of 2019. So in the meantime, when you do your transition, all your transaction kit were not going to be transferred over automatically. So on the current legacy version, you're going to have to take each individual kit and decide the ones that you want to actually store and keep for the next version. However, they are going to be transitioned as a flat file. So that means that you can't actually use them again to copy and make transactions. So that's the difference. So you can keep them, but you can't really use them to recreate. Does that make sense? Okay, so your personal clauses as well would be transferred. Your templates will be transferred. However, because the clause technology is so different, you would have to actually reinsert the clauses themselves, but the templates will be moved over. So any questions on any of the, I don't know if any of you here have actually done the transfer. If you want to follow the class today, you'll have to switch over. You can just go back if you want to. So we're going to go to the practical session. I want to talk about templates, the clauses, the things that you probably been using a lot in the legacy version that they're done here, but maybe a little bit differently, but they're still going to be able to use them here. And then after that, once we're done with that, and I'll be going around to help you individually to see if you have any specific questions. That will take some time to talk this way. All right. So the first thing that I want to look at, first of all, obviously the look is quite different. So it's more of a dashboard approach, which means there's a number of tools that are available to you that you didn't have previously. So that's why there's a lot of things going on, but I'm going to try to go around and explain them to you in a more simplified way. First thing is your dashboard. So you see a little lock up here. Once you unlock that, it gives you more options of widgets. So widgets are essentially Shh. Sure. Oh, it's my webinar. I said, I can hear myself. That's hilarious. Please shut me up. Okay. We're talking about widgets. So the widgets that you see up here are essentially shortcuts to actions that you do on a regular basis. So it's very easy to just move them around. You can take them out. So if you don't like this one, you can just simply drag them into position here. They can be resized as well. So the green ones are a little bit of a different action. So I'm just going to move this over here. It really depends what you like to see and have quick access to. I like to see transactions, the forms, overdue tasks. I just put it up there. But again, you just really customize it to the way you want to work on your own dashboard, and then lock it up to make sure that it doesn't move around. All right. So looking over here on the left-hand side, so let's look at the other tools that you now have access to, which is part of the transaction desk. Normally, transaction desk is a product you would have to purchase, but we have included that in your CREA fee, so there's no additional cost to it. So let's open this up here. So of course, the first thing that you see is access to your dashboard. And I find that the dashboard sometimes, to me, it's more like the home base. Although they put the home icon right over here. To me, that's where if sometimes I'm not sure what I'm doing or where I'm going and a lot, I just go back to my dashboard and it makes things, I can see where I am at. All right, so the next one is your transactions. So of course you have here all the ones that you've created. It's just another way to start creating transactions. Right here, of course, when we were in the dashboard, I have a widget for it, which to me is much quicker, but you'll do the same thing over here. You'll see these menu icons here all over the place. So every time you see this, what they call the traffic lights, when you click on them, you have also a number of options within the menu. So just as a curiosity, start clicking and see what it is that I can do around here. If I want to start a transaction, I can actually do it from here as well. I'm not going to do it right now, but it's just another entry point. And you'll find as well, once you get comfortable with the application, that there's different ways to do the same thing, like the transactions, for example. So I'm going to try to show you more what the straight path is, I guess, today. And then eventually, as you get more comfortable with it, you'll find your own way. All right, so the next one here is our forms. So obviously, access to your forms are really important. You also probably have access to these Saskatoon forms. I don't. And then you have the FinTrax. CANAF is simply FinTrack in French, just in case anybody's wondering what that is. So that's access to all your forms. So right underneath, this is a really neat tool right over here. It's called Documents. So the brand name that they have is called DocBox. We just removed it because we want something that just made more sense. It's just a document storage facility. So this is your own virtual storage. You can file any kind of documents in there that potentially you would send them to with your transactions that are not web forms. You can just store them in here. You have also shared documents. If you happen to share documents, this is your own transaction folders as well. But here you can really store anything that you want in terms of documentation. Actually, when you're going to start transferring over your kits from the legacy version, they will end up into your document storage area, just so you know. So that's where you will be finding them. So the task option that they have here, so this allows me to create a task reminder if there's something that I need to do. You can also assign it to someone in your office. It's something that they need to be done and with a specific deadline. So again, these are just tools that are there for you to use. There's nothing mandatory about them. The next feature that they have is a faxing ability. So I haven't met anybody here in Canada that still uses fax, but apparently it's still very popular in the States. So that's why they have it there. It will create a fax cover with one of those QR code right on which is of course connected to a specific document. But if you don't want to use it, don't worry about it. It's not it's just an option if you do have to use a fax machine. So another really cool tool is your contact management right here. So you can add some contacts at any time here. If you just click on add. And again, once you see these little menus, don't be afraid to click on it to see what my options are. It is integrated with Google Contacts. So if you have that already established, you can import them. And you can create just new contacts as you go along. Yes?
Got a bunch of contacts in here and have to put them in there where they get.
Sorry, you have contacts that were not?
I have contacts.
Mm-hmm.
I just clicked on the contacts here.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of my clients' contact list is in there. Where did it get that from?
That's probably from the documents that you've transferred over. You said you transferred over some documents from the old, from the legacy version? We'll have to look at it after, if you don't mind. We'll take a look, because that's normally what they would do if you're transferring over some documents. All right, so let's look now at the setup. So the setup is a really important part here, because a lot of the things that you'll be able to do will be done under your setup. So the first thing, of course, is preferences. Again, a number of things you can do here or look at to make sure that the information is right. User information, of course, it's all about you as an agent. Office information will have to do with your brokerage. The email signature, so for here, every time I send an email through WEBForms, it will just add my signature block right here. And then, all of my contact info as well. You can also do some branding actually when you're sending out, well, they have the fax back here, but I tried this one here. I just put it when I send an email to somebody, then the picture appears. You may not want to have that all the time, obviously, but you may want your company logo instead. So again, it's still all about what you would like to do in terms of branding. Okay, so program setting, we're not going to worry too much about that. There's a lot of settings that can be done here if you want. You can start setting up fonts, basic font size. All of this can be done from here. Since I have this page open here, you're going to realize sometimes when you start creating documents, it's always giving me a fax back cover, whether I like it or not, because that's just, it's a default that they have. So if you go under this setting right here and remove the check mark of that fax back, just remove it where it says create cover sheet, then you won't have that anymore. So because it just appears automatically and you don't really use it, then just get rid of it, just update. And always, of course, make sure you update it from here. So here, of course, the document settings, this is when you can do a lot more of the global settings as well. Form, fax, again, if you're using it. So again, you can explore that area and see there's certain things that you would like to change. So going back here, so link devices, we were not going to worry about this right now, notifications. So this is where you would actually create your clauses, okay, your personal clauses, as opposed to, of course, what are the system or the provincial clauses. So this is where you would create them, as opposed on the legacy version. Of course, you would just pick the tab that's on the main page, but you do them from here. Type management, I wouldn't worry about it. Checklist manager, the checklist feature that they have allows you to create a checklist. It's just for your own personal workings if you want to make sure that you don't forget anything. So you can create these checklists. And this is where we're also going to create templates. Hopefully, most of you already use templates because it's such a time saver and of course, makes things so much easier. And this is where we're going to be creating them from. The sharing feature, so there is this ability within the application to do share groups. So if you're working in an office environment where perhaps you work as a team, you may have 2 or 3 people always working together. So by creating these sharing groups, you can actually share the document that you prepare with these individuals, and they can make changes as well, or just preview. It really depends. You have the choice of what kind of permissions you give to them, but it allows you some collaboration, which of course we wanted to add with the WEBForms. So we'll look at creating those sharing group in a minute. So integrations, that's mostly if you have other Lone Wolf products. A lot of brokers actually use Broker Wolf, I think it's called. So that's not something that you have to worry about. All right, so let's move down here before we go back to this. Well, right underneath. So this is the App Store where you would normally link into your e-signature, depending on what you have. Do most people here have it's usually Authentisign and DocuSign? Authentisign users? A few? DocuSigns? Anything else or none at all? Some of you don't use e-signature? Okay, so this is where if you don't have your links to DocuSign, you would have to kind of recreate it right here. So you would have to click on link. I'm linked in here to DocuSign, so I don't have to do it. But this is where, or if you don't have an e-signature, then you can simply come here and try out any of these products. A lot of them are like Authentisign, can easily sign up for a 30-day free trial if you wish to try it out. All right, so right underneath, we have our support. So the support, this goes directly to the CREA help desk. We have people available from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time, which would mean 6 p.m. your time. And right at the bottom here, so there's a number of training tools as well, webinars, pre-recorded webinars, and training guides, like just in the PDF format to help you along if you're stuck on certain thing that you're trying to create. All right, so now let's move on to starting to personalize some of the, again, the tools that we're going to be using. So for those of you that, if you want to follow me, then we'll go under your setup right here and start creating personal clauses. So I'm going to open up this menu. All right, so I have access to, I have my personal clauses. The office clauses would be if you had brokerage clauses, if your brokerage had a clause manager from the legacy version, they would be available here. And of course, under the system clause, this is where you have all the provincial ones that were provided. But we're going to be creating a personal one. So I'm going to simply open up my folder here. So I have a number of them here. So very easily, I just have to click on the plus sign, add. I can create subfolders, especially if I have a number of clauses. I'm just going to actually create a clause right here. And then just give this a name. So we'll just call it for PM. And then, of course, you could potentially copy and paste the text if you have it somewhere on a Word document. Okay. And then, of course, save it. So it is just that simple. All right. So let's go back to our setup. Any questions on the clauses before we move along? It's pretty simple. Okay. So now we're going to be creating templates. So again, can I just get a show of hand to see who uses templates? Okay, so there's still some holdouts. All right, so again, I encourage you to do this because most of the time you're always using the same forms, the same clauses, same thing. You're always repeating it. So the templates will avoid a lot of the time spent into recreating a kit or a transaction every time. So let's create a transaction template right here. All right, so I'm just going to simply click on the add template. Oh, where's the 28? I missed a day somewhere. That was in Regina. Okay. All right, so I officially just need a name, but I am simply going to pick on a residential sale. I can put a description if I want to. I'm just going to leave it at that. So it opens up the options that I can actually put into my template. So, so the first thing, let me move this up a little bit. So the checklist, again, if I have checklists, I can put them in there. Again, I don't need to. The contacts, because this is a template, it should be generic. So I wouldn't add any contacts in there unless you're creating a template for a client that you do a lot of business with. So you can already insert their information in advance. I'm just going to leave it at that. So the documents and folder, this was I was mentioning earlier, is the documents that are not web forms that you would normally send with your transaction at any time. So if I'm just going to click on that, so I have different ways to get these documents in there. I can drag and drop it, especially if I have a second screen, I just drag it in there. I can go to my doc box as well. It takes me into the folder. So I have some documents in here, I do believe. Yeah, so it's just all fake stuff. But again, it's just to help you. I know I always have to send that document every time I do it. That's why I'll put it in my templates. But yes, if you have a Dropbox account, yes. Well, you'll have to, where am I? Let me just go back in here. So depending on the options right over here, see the cloud, import from third party. So we'll give you a number of options here, okay? All right, so forms, of course, the important part of the templates. So I'm just going to open this up here to get access to the forms that we saw earlier. So you can either open up the folders and, of course, just go and scroll down, unless you know, of course, the numbers or just put the name. I know them by number, the ones I'm needing to put in. So I am going to put the data input form in there just for today's session. You probably don't do it the same way. Sorry, do you have a question?
How about how we can transfer old one to here?
Pardon me?
From the old one to new one. I already got a template.
Yes.
How we can transfer?
Yeah, so I said earlier, you'll be able to transfer the template. However, the clauses in there will not be following. You'll have to reinsert the clauses, but your templates, you have to be in the legacy version and use the option to send it to WebForms 2019. But both templates as well. They will be transferred over. Yeah. Actually, I think that will be happening automatically when you transfer, when you decide to move it over. So not if it's an active transaction. I wouldn't recommend it. If it's an active transaction, don't move it over right now. You have enough time to finish it because once it's moved over, then it becomes a flat file. You can't actually edit it. So that's the issue with that. Unless you start it right away into the new, then you're good to go, but you can't just take it and then move it over.
The issue I just ran into though was that you can't affect the sign out of the legacy version anymore. So you have to move your transaction get, and if it's not, if you have to change anything, then you can't change it. So I don't know what the option is for that. Create a new transaction kit in the web forms, or can you add a form? You can't add a form to that transaction kit either, can you?
Are you talking in the new version? You can add another form, a newer form, even if you, yeah, if you just can't do any changes to the one that you moved over, but you could add some more forms to a new transaction. Yes, you just can't do any edits on the one that you've sent it over. That makes sense? Okay, yeah. All right, so let's move. So always make sure that once you're inserting your forms, you put a check mark in the little circle to make sure that they are being included in your template. As I said, so normally you probably wouldn't do that this way. You wouldn't put the input form there, but it's just because I want to show you something about that. So I also want to insert the 100, which is the purchase and sale, right here. The 101 for your schedule. Okay. And we'll just add some fin track as well for a good measure. All right. So let's just say that completes my transaction. Obviously, it's totally up to you. If I click on the little basket here, it calculates them, but it also tells me what I have in there. So I can just remove what I think I don't need in there at this point. Close it, and then click on Add. All right, so any good template, of course, is only as good as you can insert clauses, again, to save you some time. So right here, I can go directly into that schedule form, open it up. Okay, let me move this up a little bit. Okay, so let's just say that's my schedule A. Actually, this is a template, so I'm not even going to put it in for now. So the difference that we have with when we were inserting clauses in the legacy version is that you used to have a button that says insert clauses, which of course made things easier. In this case, there is no button. We're trying actually to get it, to put it in there. But you do have to click on that box. It highlights it. And then you have the menu of clauses right at the top here. So right here, it says, so you're, again, because of the responsive design, sometimes you lose your menu, especially those of you that are working on tablets. So depending on what size you're working on, it may change your actual menu, the look of the menu. So let's go into my new clauses here. I'm going to put a couple of them in here, and also going to use some of the system ones. Let's go a couple of the chattels. So again, you would put in there all your regular clauses that you use all the time, and then just insert them. And then we can just exit. I'll go through the options at the top later on. So I'm just going to exit that form after I've inserted all my basic clauses. And you can add a lot more text. The old template that we had with Legacy would only remember clauses and forms. In this case, it actually remembers a lot more information. It will actually take it. And again, depending on what it is that you're inserting, the information will stay. So it does have a lot more flexibility that way. So we done the forms. So the sharing option that we have here. So these are groups that I've already created. I'll show you in a minute how to create those groups. Again, if you're working as a team all the time, you can use that sharing option. You cannot actually share your template, but you can share the transactions you're creating from the template. So you don't have to use this from here. I can just close that out and then just decide to share a specific transaction. We'll get into that later on. All right, so I've completed a template, and now it's ready for me to use it anytime I need to do a transaction. So I can just make sure to update. I can get out of here, go back to my dashboard, but before I do so, I want to make sure if there's any questions before we move on to the next part. All good? All right. All right, let's go back to my dashboard. Now let's just start creating those transactions. So couple ways I can, of course, the easy way is just to click here, create transaction, and get going. Like I showed you earlier, the home icon right on the side, same thing, click on add, it's just extra clicked. So that's why the widgets come in handy, because it's much faster, okay? So I'm gonna open up, create transaction. I'm gonna give this a name as you normally would anyways. Okay, so again, because I've created a template, you don't have to use a template, but I highly recommend it. I'm going to pick the one where we just did. So this is where you actually integrate your MLS number. So I have this one here, and it would auto-populate data. You can add yourself as whatever role you have in that transaction or not. So there's a wizard option here, and especially at the beginning, I really encourage you to use that option just to help you get through all the steps to create that transaction. Yes?
So when you put an MLS number in there,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, if you were doing a sale, will it auto-populate? Or say if you were doing a new listing off an old MLS number, will it populate it?
I guess it depends on how old the MLS number is. Is the number still active?
The short answer is yes.
Okay, yes, okay. I wasn't sure if you were referring
If the
to a
listing
really
exists
old
in
listing
Matrix,
number, okay.
If the listing exists in Matrix, it will pull. Anything pre-2008 where there might have been field differences, it might not pull all the data it would for more current ones, but it will pull data across. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so let's leave the wizard option on. See, a wizard, it's something that is set up to help you go through steps. So because, again, this is brand new to you, you'll see here, so where you see the previous next, it just helps me go through the steps, but I can get rid of it. If I just click on the wizard here, I just can get rid of it, but then I have to figure it out myself. So once you get used to it, it's just as easy. So once I created that transaction, so you can see on the right-hand side, now I have a brand new menu that opened. So the difference with this one, which is of course represents all the tools, so this menu here refers to that transaction. So this tells me all the elements. So if I want to see what are the forms in there. If I click on that, it's going to tell me all my forms that are in that particular transaction. Same thing for documents, checklists, etc. So that's, again, you can close that off as well. So the first page that you have, of course, is much more different than what we had before. You don't have to fill in all of those fields. They are available to you. Of course, the MLS number has picked up a lot of info to begin with. There's still some that they're not, but again, you don't have to fill them all out. You can come back later as well. So if you click on next, you're moving through the wizard. So there's another page of potential information you could add in there. Offer dates. So a lot of these things sometimes you're only going to have later on, so you can just come back and fill them up if you want to. All right, so you click on next again. So you have your contacts. So you can see here it's pulled some of the contacts are already existing within that transaction because it is a live MLS number that I have. If you're doing this with me, please don't send anything to any of these people here. But I do have just a generic term. But I can also add more contacts as well as I'm creating that transaction. So I'm not going to do that right now. I can go ahead and click on next in order to continue. So these are my forms that I've added earlier in the template. So I don't have to actually do all the addition of forms. However, if I want, let's say I forgot one, I can just click on add. It takes me back to my whole selection of forms, and then I can add more. So if I didn't use a template at all, I would come here to a blank form, the page itself. So I would have to go ahead and insert them all. But because again, that template was created right at the beginning, then I don't have to do this every time. So right here, a little thing that you can do when you're hovering actually over the thumbnail, when you're moving it around, it also moves the forms in a different position. And again, every time you see these little menus here, like this one that looks like a traffic light, always take a look and see what you can do with it. There's always options that you may not know for sure. You can add forms, of course. So let's go and move on to next for the last part of the wizard. So this is a document that I usually attach with all my documents, my transactions. So if I don't need it, I can still delete it. But you remember when we created the template, we actually added it there. But if I don't need it for that, I can just get rid of it. And I can click on done, and that completes the 5 steps of actually creating my transaction. Then I can start the actual editing. So let me move this up a little bit here. So you have, of course, within those widgets here, the information, so the detail overview, that's what we've created in terms of the folder of the transaction. We have our forms and the documents that are inserted as well. So in order to start editing my forms, I could click here. I could go to form. I can also just click on one specific form, which I'm looking, this one here. So I just click on the actual title. And there's a reason why I put the input form in there, because we wanted to tell you about the ADT integration of the data. So, because apparently you do a lot of, you normally would have to do this a couple times, right? 2 or 3 times and reinsert the information. But with the integration here, so as a member, I don't have that, but you would have an actual button at the top here that would say, what was it, redirect to upload listing. So you fill in all this data here, and by clicking on that, it creates that listing to your matrix system. So this is one of the new features that came along with, did you want to add anything to that, Bruce, or is there anything else that I may have missed?
Just simply, it'll create a listing with the majority of the data in the form in matrix as a incomplete listing that you can go in and complete the remainder of the data on.
And it'll give you the MLS number at that time.
When you press upload listing, you will see the icon spin, and it will kick back a message that includes the MLS number before you move on.
Thank you.
So that's why I said normally you probably would put that form within that transaction, but that was my reasons for it. All right, so now let's just look at the other forms. I'm just going to quickly move from form to form. So this is how you do it. You still have that same logo, or icon. So it opens up my menu. So let's go take a look at our residential contract. And I'm going to just go through the menu options that you have now when you're actually doing transactions. All right, so let's look again. Under the file menu, right here, your first option where it says new, that means you can add another form. If you've forgotten a form or you want to add another schedule, for example, you can simply do it from here. There's an open form option as well. Save as a PDF, if that's something you need to do. You can copy the form itself. So you can also erase, but the erasing is just the actual content, not the actual form, of course. You have the option to put some watermarks. If, for example, you want this document to only be a draft for the moment until, broker looks at it, whatever it is, and then you just go back once it's done and just remove the watermark. So again, little options like that you didn't have before. I can remove, of course, print. Under the send, again, more options, email, fax, the doc box, again, is the document storage, and you also have the markup as well. The X allows you to exit the actual document. the whole transaction. So it is being saved on a regular basis every 5 minutes, but every time you switch pages, of course, it's going to always save it anyway. So that's continuous. So let me just move here to my schedule. So if you remember earlier, we did insert those clauses already within our template, so I don't have to do this again. But if I need to add more, I can just simply click on it, and then I click on this is here the clause menu. So if you're not sure what the icons represent, just hover over it, and then the little tag will appear in order for you to see it. Something else that we can do now is actually change the font. We have a lot more options. I like Helvetica. That's a personal choice. There's lots of fancy colors. Remember, that doesn't always look as good when it's printed. So if you like hot pink, I don't know. It's a personal preference. There's sizes, of course. The 6 is very, very small. I don't really recommend it, but it is there as an option. Again, in your preferences, you can actually set a default if you always want it at 9 or at 10, etc. All right, so moving on. So of course, this is our clause, the transaction form menu to move. The help menu as well. If you're, again, needing to go back to get some help in terms of the guides, some of the training tools that's there, the Zoom feature. And then the last one here that we have is a markup tool. So if you think that you may have some things on that schedule that you want to attract attention to or marked out, like this one is the strikeout, for example. So you can just do that just as easily down here. You can use it as a line. You can highlight certain things as well. So again, another little tool that will help you make things. There's a text box as well. So if you want to add something in here. Since I am here, actually, we were talking this morning. We have you have the issue, of course, because you have to have a contract number in Saskatchewan. So they're actually working on it right now to add that field. That field doesn't exist right now, and to have a generated number. So what you could do in the meantime, and I'm expecting it's going to be done quite quickly, is to use that text box and then just add it. Of course, it's not going to propagate any other forms, unfortunately, but you can just put that contract number in here as opposed to, until the actual field will be put on the forms. All right, any questions on that? Yes? None at this point. When they're going to set it up, that's what's going to be done, though. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that is what we're working on.
Yeah.
This came up the other day, and this is a live problem we're fixing.
Yeah, because I do believe Saskatchewan is the only province that does that, these numbers. All right, so anyways, this is your quick fix in the meantime if you really want to have is it a requirement that it is the number on every form? Is that how it works? So you can just copy and paste it, I suppose. All right, so now from here, I've completed all my forms. Again, I'm going to move from form to form, fill them all out. So what do I want to do now? I need potentially to email it. I can do it directly from here. So I'm going to go back onto my file menu right here. So email. So I can pick and choose the forms that I need to send. I don't have to send them all. I'll just the contract of purchase and the schedule. Click on OK. All right, so I'm going to send it to myself. If you, whoever's doing it here today, don't send it to anyone else but yourself, especially if you're on that contact. You can write a message, of course. So, excuse me, now you have two options to either send it as a link or as an attachment. So the difference is that if you're sending a whole bunch of forms, it's a very big document, send them as a link. Sometimes if you send a big attachment, the people at the other end might not have good connectivity, so it might be difficult to download. Sometimes a link is just easier to do. You still have the option to allow editing of forms, which is, it's there. I don't know of anyone that actually uses it, but it is still there. It is available as well in the legacy, but people don't usually use it. The expiration date option. So in the legacy, we had the option, it was a 7-day expiration date, and then you could actually extend it. In this case, you can set up your own expiration date. And the reason why we do this is, of course, it's you don't want to have this document just sitting in somebody's email box forever. So put a certain time if you want to. Of course, it's not mandatory. But again, it does allow, if you know that they're going on vacation for a couple of weeks and they may not have internet connection right away, give them a couple of weeks. And then, but again, just to make sure that you're protecting that document. And then you just go ahead and send it, and it's good to go. So it really is that simple. That's my next gig. So if you have a tent assign, which also, of course works better because they are integrated with Transaction Desk. So you would be normally seeing a little pen at the end. If there's some of you here that are tent assign users, you may see that pen, and that would send you directly to a tent assign. It really is that simple. So if you are you're integrated with DocuSign, for example, it's a little bit of a different purpose to process to get there. I'm going to show you that in a minute. We're trying actually to get them to add another icon. So one for their intent to sign and one for other e-signature supplier, because it just makes it easier. So once I'm done with this transaction, like I said, you can email it from here and also do the e-signature if you have intent to sign. If not, we're just going to get out of here right now. And I'll show you how to, if you're, again, I have the DocuSign account myself right now. So we're back into our transaction dashboard. So this is not the main dashboard. This is in particular to that particular transaction. So we want to do something with the forms. So the way that we do this for the other e-signature suppliers is that way. So we can go, I can click on forms here. I can go to forms right here. So the goal is to open up the forms that I have in my transaction. Okay. So I can pick and choose. If I choose right here, all the forms, I can do that. But if I just want to have a sign, of course, let me just remove that actually. I want to just get the contract of purchase and sale and the schedule. And of course, it's here right on my basket. It's accumulating the forms that I picked. If I click on that, then I have all my options. So if you can see here, if I hover over that pen, it's going to send it to DocuSign because I have put in my credentials. And you do have, again, other options, copy, print, PDF, email it, fax, or just delete. So this is how you would do it if you have anything else but a intent to sign. And that would just send it directly into your DocuSign dashboard. So we would be leaving the actual web forms. All right. So that's the two different ways that you have in order to be able to send through e-signature. Any questions on that?
Yeah.
From where? We were talking e-signature.
We went really quickly through that.
Okay, so let's go back to our dashboard. Let's do that. Okay. So again, when we were, did you catch the part when we were doing intent to sign from the open document? Further. Before intent to sign. Okay. I was creating the transaction. I can reopen the transaction if you want. So March 28th. So this is from here. Where are you on your screen? Okay. So I did open it up to do some changes. Did you get to that point when we opened up the schedule, for example? So if I did, well, you can have access to all of them. But. Okay, so you have intent to sign? Okay, so do you see a pen page? Okay, are you logged in to intent to sign? Do you know? Do you have a to sign? So what we'll do, we'll finish this and then I'll go walk around to give you individual help if you have questions. And then that will be working better this way. All right, so we can go back to our beginnings here. Well, let's just get out. So I want to know, well, I mean, essentially I have completed what you need to do on, you know, you have your templates that you've filled in with your forms and your clauses, and then how you create that transaction all the way there. And of course, e-signature as well. So is there anything else that that you want either me to go through again, or any questions on any of the basics? Or is that clear as mud? Pardon me? You want me to go through DocuSign? Oh, how to send them to DocuSign? Okay. So because it's another supplier, so essentially it's things that you can do to the form. So think about an action that I need to do with those forms, which would be in this case signing. So I have my transaction open right here. So I can go to forms here or forms there. So this is looking at the forms that I have in my current transaction, okay? And again, we're getting them to add more visible icons right here so that you know about e-signature, because it's not obvious because it's not the Authentisign. So right here, I need to send them here. So I'm gonna either select them all. I don't want to do that, but I definitely want to do the purchase and the schedule. So it's through the basket. So the basket, once I click on it, this is where I have the options, okay? So in that pen, that's what sends to DocuSign. So if I click on that right now, I would be going, I'd take those with me to DocuSign. So that's the difference between the two, because of course Authentisign is their product, it's integrated already. So that's the difference between the two. Anything else? It's a very quiet afternoon crowd. It was more feisty this morning.
We're the intelligent group.
I'll tell them you said that. So if there are no specific questions, unless you're shy to ask, I can go around and then we can look at some of your accounts if you want to. Is that good for you? Or again, I want to make sure that you're comfortable that if you decide to do that switch, you can. And I want to reiterate, if you have active listings, active transactions going on right now, don't switch them over if they're active. Just finish them while you have time. That's the beauty of you guys being the first to be transitioned. So if they're active, don't just leave them there and finish them off there, or start them in the new one right away.
I thought it was so wise last night.
I know. Sorry. Well, like I said, you can still add some more documents to it, some more forms. You just can't edit the ones you've already created. So if it's a form that's doesn't need to be changed, and it's still okay. So once you actually start moving your transaction kits into the new version, they actually are going to be going into your document storage area. So this one right over here. So you're not going to find them in the transactions. They will be saved as documents. So like I said, they will be flat files. So you won't still be able to reuse them. Only the template, but the templates, you'll have to reinsert the clauses.
I'm just wondering if, I'm not sure if it's just me, but it seems like there's a lot more steps to get the job done with this new version compared to the old version.
Well, and you're right, because there is more integration of other tools. So you have your contact management, you have the document storage area. So just the WEBForms legacy is just that. It was a Forms application and then e-signature. So we wanted to offer these other tools as well. So it kind of comes in a package. So, and then once you get comfortable with it, it'd be quick. You don't have, a lot of these tools, you don't have to use them. So you can simply start creating a transaction and then add forms, and of course templates will save you that much more time. But a lot of these tools, you don't have to use them. I just have to show them to you. So, and don't be afraid to go and explore. I mean, try them out. and try transactions, tries different things, and then just do it on your own or send them to your colleagues just to get comfortable with it. And you're lucky that you have 9 months to go. So that was the point of doing it early. BC's it'll be the last one in August, so they have less time to get used to it. So again, if you have questions or you want to repeat, I can just go around and see if anybody else wants to have individual help. Yes, sir. Okay. So thank you so much for being here. If not, again, everybody sign up on that sheet. If you want to, so only if you fill out the survey, you'll be allowed to, eligible to go into the iPad draw. So make sure that your name is on it. If you don't wish to stay, that's okay. Now you can go, and then the ones that have the questions, I'll be walking around. Thank you so much. Okay.